I'm now 27 years old. I had applied to the University of Michigan upon accepting enthusiasm and excitement and belief from my closest friend in life, likely, or certainly one of the few, Brent Eager. And so I'd applied and was turned down, and because of my mission president, I had an appointment with the man in charge of admissions for the MBA program. Now, in a session earlier, remember that at age 17, chronologically and academically about 5, I'd been told by Mrs. Heima, as I took a required but not in any way a determinant entrance examination, and she told me basically that I was dumb. She didn't use the word, but in effect what she did say is that any kind of brain transferable into any kind of academic understanding or achievement was not a path I should follow. And I proved Mrs. Heima correct for a couple of years, being Mr. Fraternity. But I also proved her incorrect as I moved into my junior and senior years, and then went on into the military and the mission. And now I was being told again by a graduate program that was recognized, that did have capable, acclaimed student body. And I wanted to go there, and they said to me, we not only don't think you can do it, we think it's laughable that you do. And they said it a little more sophisticatedly. So I have an appointment set up by my mission president, and I'm 27 years old, and somehow got to Ann Arbor. I don't know how I did, because I think I'd gone to church while in New York, where I had to take the graduate admissions examination. In any case, I was in New York, somehow or other got myself to Detroit and Ann Arbor, which geographically was not on the way home. And I had my mission suit on, was old, but I had it on. And that's what this session will discuss, what happened as I stood and knocked on the door of Dr. Pilcher. And I heard after my knock to come in, and did. Dr. Pilcher was at a desk. He was looking over some papers. He didn't look up. And I stood at the door, and I said, my name's Alan Brown. And he didn't respond. And I had brought with me a transcript of my records, my academic records. I'd also brought with me a book of matches. And as he was over his desk, and as I stood at the door, I took out those matches, and I struck a match and lit my transcript on fire. And I stood there. Dr. Pilcher looked up. He swore, basically asking, what in the hell am I doing? And I stood there with my transcripts on fire. And I walked over to his ash can. In the meantime, there's smoke. And I put out that fire, and I looked at him, and I said, Dr. Pilcher, my name is Alan Brown, and I want to attend this university. And I don't want you to turn me down because of those burnt ashes. You give me any test. You define any requirement, and I'll do whatever I have to do to meet your standards. But don't you turn me down because of a pile of ashes that's in your ash can. My appointment that was scheduled for 30 minutes turned into 2.5 hours. And was given the assurance that if I returned to the University of Utah and demonstrated at this stage that I was well equipped to meet the standards of that university and was really I had the character consistent with what I told him that I was in. And so in January, when I am now 28 years old, of 1958, I enrolled in the University of Michigan as a graduate student in business administration. I loved every minute of it. Oh, there were most members of the class, they were likely smarter, academically better equipped from a scholarly standpoint, but I just loved it. And I was in the libraries. My recreation consisted of just studying in different libraries. And I took extracurricular classes. I not only took the graduate degree program, I took classes in religion. I took classes in weather. I mean, I can't even remember. I piled on nothing but classes because the university was so filled with inspirational, professional, magnificent teachers of information. And I completed that program. Very proudly, I left the University of Michigan with a graduate degree in business administration. And I thought of Mrs. Haima. And I was very grateful to Dr. Pilcher and was ready now to enter the next stage of my young adulthood, really ready to meet what I was going to do, which will be a session that will also be important. Why the career path that I decided upon seemed appropriate and consistent with who I was at that stage in life.